Iran is on verge of acquiring China's CM-302 supersonic anti-ship missiles, a deal nearing finalization amid rising regional tensions. These carrier-killer weapons could alter the naval balance in the Gulf rapidly. China appears ready to arm Tehran despite international sanctions directly challenging the US pressure. The missile's 290-kilometer range is confirmed, but cost numbers and delivery timelines remain unclear. What is certain tonight is this is not a routine arms trade. This is hard geopolitics. At the center of the standoff is the CM-302, a supersonic anti-ship cruise missile developed by China's defense industry. It can strike targets nearly 290 kilometers away, traveling at Mach 2 to Mach 3 in its final phase. It sea skims just above the water, complicating radar detection. It carries a heavy, high-explosive warhead designed to cripple large naval platforms. It can be launched from ships, aircrafts, or mobile launchers, giving Iran flexibility and surprise. Coastal targets are also within reach. So why does this missile worry navies worldwide? It flies low below the radar horizon. Its speed cuts reaction time to seconds. It can maneuver in the terminal phase, confusing interceptors. High kinetic energy amplifies impact damage. Its low altitude radar signature is small, and it is designed to resist electronic countermeasures. Simply put, it is built to penetrate layered defenses. The United States does have a strong defense in the region. Its naval shield is layered and mobile. Aegis system provides long-range detection, SM-2, and SM-6 interceptors engage incoming threats. ESSM missiles form the mid-range layer. The Phalanx CIWS acts as a final shield. Electronic warfare and decoys like Nulka attempt to divert missiles. Fighter jets patrol ahead of the fleet to neutralize launch platform. The US can intercept, but against supersonic saturation attacks, success is not guaranteed. And now, to the symbol of the American naval power, the Gerald Ford class carrier. Its strength includes advanced radar, Aegis-equipped escorts, layered missile defense, over 150 aircraft across carrier groups, and superior electronic warfare. But the vulnerabilities exist. It is a large, detectable target. It relies on escorts, supersonic low-altitude missiles, compressed decision time. Swarm attacks sharply increase risk. One missile may not sink a carrier. Multiple hits could disrupt operations. Iran already fields over 3,000 ballistic missiles, including Shahab, Seji, and Khurramshahr. Its cruise missile inventory includes Sumar, Hafza, Noor, and Qadir. Add to that over 1,000 combat-proven drones. If CM-302 joins this arsenal, Iran gains more than a weapon. It gains real anti-aircraft leverage in the Gulf. So tonight's question is clear. Is China redrawing red lines in America's naval backyard? And if supersonic carrier killer enters Iran's arsenal, does deterrence still hold, or does escalation becomes inevitable? On this issue, I am joined by Professor Swaran Singh from JNU and AA Commodore, Dr. Ashpinder Singh Bahal. I'll go to Dr. Bahal first. Sir, how potent is this weapon in context of the two aircraft carriers and entire armada that has been deployed?
Jai Hind, and thank you very much for calling on such a vital topic like this in the heightened situation that is there in the Middle East today, with two aircraft carriers coming in. So when we are looking at this particular weapon system, like you rightly mentioned, it comes at low altitude, and when it is flying, just skimming the waves, there is hardly any reaction time. So I was calculating it would work out to just about 5 to 10 seconds, which implies that it is virtually impossible to detect, identify, and then hit this missile, especially when it is having an extremely good CEP, 1 to 3 meters, and they are betting on 1 meter, which means within the DMPI, desired mean point of impact, 1 meter from that distance this missile is going to hit. Then is that its navigation system is not dependent on GPS, it is dependent on Beidou. And lastly, it has an active homing head, which implies that its own missile has a radar which is continuing to illuminate and home onto the target system. So its accuracy further increases. Now, keeping this in mind, it is just one weapon system. So when we are going to look at Iran, they are going to use multiple weapon systems at multiple altitudes. It'll start with Fatah, or it could start with Khurramshahr, which is coming a ballistic missile that is coming virtually from space. Then we are looking at this missile or other missiles. They have a Talai Ye, which has got a range of about 1,000 kilometers. It was operationalized in December 2023. So probably, my estimate, 50 to 60 missile minimum, they must be having that. So that is another anti-ship missile with a very long range. And thirdly, you have fast attack crafts and midget submarines. Now, these missiles can also be fitted in that, including the Noor missile, which you had shown, which is Iran's own anti-shipping missile. So imagine from surface, air, and space. If you use multi-directional saturation strike and drones coming in between, imagine the amount it'll pressure which is going to be there on the air defense systems of a carrier battle group. And it is highly likely that if we keep a high OTR, over target requirement, that they are going to penetrate that, if not in the first wave, second or third wave, and both the aircraft carriers could find damage. Now I come to the second aspect, and damage means 4,000 to 4,500 people inside and 75 to 90 aircraft on that battleship. But then I come to one final thing on this issue. The issue here is that the Americans will come in with shock and awe, with firing at their maximum amount in one go itself, with aiming to hit the ballistic missile sites. But when we are looking at this weapon systems or similar weapon systems, they are going to come in fast attack crafts. And they have 1,500 FACs, that is fast attack crafts, out of which 250 have modified to carry the anti-shipping missile. And if we have total of about 10 to 12 destroyers, frigates, and about two aircraft carriers, you find that significant damage they can impose if proper planning is carried out.
Professor Swaran Singh, this is the technology part, but there is also the strategy. Russian and Chinese presence was absent in Venezuela. It has become visible in Iran. Why?
I think partly because of realities on the ground, partly lessons learned. Indeed, you could even look at Assad regime in Syria that Russians were backing, and they were not able to help it because of partly the Black Sea Fleet was kind of stuck at that time with Ukraine war being the reality of that region. I think it's a lesson learned, and therefore Russia and China both apparently are seizing this opportunity to equip Iran with weapons that Iran seeks. And what does Iran seek? Iran is witnessing a doctrinal change from fixed assets in terms of air defense, which were not very effective during the June attacks, strikes by Israel and United States. And now they are trying to go for diversified and mobile manpads, uh, man operated kind of anti air defense systems. And that is where manpads are being supplied both by Russia and by China. And in that sense, no ballistic missile defense is proven 100% guaranteeing that they can't be swarmed or overwhelmed. But what we are seeing here is two things. One, it will increase the risks and the costs of anyone who's trying to attack Iran. And second, which is more crucial, in case of a regime change possibility, when you could see if there's a kind of an operation like Venezuela, then that would require helicopters to be flying low. And that is where these manpads are going to be 100% strike. They will not allow any aircraft which can come within the reach of 4.5 kilometers up in the sky. So, in that sense, it's a fundamental doctrinal change from Iran. It's also a kind of reassertion by China and Russia. And in that sense, I assume what you could potentially see again is, uh, airstrikes from 30,000 feet and above and so on, or simply power projections. In fact, hoping that power projections will itself lead to some kind of a nuclear deal that could become acceptable to President Trump. So it's a fundamental change in strategy, as you mentioned, both from Iran's side and also in that sense a certain amount of change from Beijing and Moscow as to how they wish to now come and openly stand with Iran. They recently had this naval exercise called Marine Security Belt 2026, where again three navies were working together, showcasing that China and Russia are going to stand by Iran in that sense. And now the series of so with China, we also talk of technology versus energy kind of a
Okay.
swap that happens with China. China would like to ensure that energy supplies continuously, which are shrinking because of United States fundamentally trying to grab as much sources of energy around the world, and that is how they want to really browbeat China's growth and then competition with the United States. So China also is looking at how it can ensure access to energy, and energy vis-a-vis technology is the swap that is happening between Russia, between China and Iran. Russia is also trying to showcase that it's no longer restricted only to Ukraine. It has finger in the pie elsewhere as well, and could also distract United States away from European theater in that sense. So they both Beijing and Moscow have their own reasons why they are now trying to learn from past and change their approach and become more assertive and proactive in supporting Tehran or Iran leadership here. So I think there is a clear change of how they want to
Okay.
now deal with the United States in case they are planning another airstrikes.
Okay. My question is very simple, uh, Dr. Bahal. Is there a system available, operational, that can counter supersonic and hypersonic missiles?
Currently, it is extremely difficult to tackle the hypersonic missiles. Hypersonic means speed of 5 Mach or more, and supersonic. When we are talking of supersonic, we are also looking at added stealth capability in them, making them low observable, which implies that not only is the speed giving lesser reaction time, but also the technology is such that the RCS, radar cross section of the weapon system missile itself, is low, and therefore the probability of picking up becomes lesser, and you are picking up at much lesser distance, thereby reducing the reaction time further. And also, most of these anti-shipping missiles, they are basically sea skimming missiles. They come at extremely low altitude. Even when we were talking of Talai, that particular missile is coming, it's a cruise missile, it is coming at 2000 feet, but towards the end it would descend down and probably fly between 10 to 30 meters, which implies giving again a very low reaction time. So when we combine all these factors, if you want to saturate an air defense system, even though it may be one of the world's best, you've seen that happen when it happened in Israel in the 12-day war, that there were a number of ballistic missiles, especially Fatah, which is a hypersonic missile, which could penetrate and attack the target systems there, though its accuracy at that time was lesser. Plus, most of these weapon systems are maneuvering weapon systems, which implies that the initial trajectory which is there on the missile or the weapon system, if the counter air defense system is looking at it and it has maneuvered or changed its target, then it becomes extremely difficult for that air defense system to counter it. And that is exactly what is happening. You look at Oshnik example, which is also a hypersonic missile used by Russia against Ukraine. And you must have seen there was no way
Yes.
that they could have tackled that. Another last thing on this particular aspect is the multiple warheads that today's ballistic missiles are carrying. Now, with the multiple warheads, even if you are able to take on one or two warheads, there'll be another 4 to 5 warheads which may actually go through. One thing about the similarities not being there with respect to Venezuela, and that is primarily because, see, and China both are going to use the example of Ukraine degrading Russia's ability both economically and militarily by following the same example, by getting America engaged in a war, attrition war, where it starts bleeding. And therefore, the Chinese don't have to do much except that their oil that was going to come
Okay.
from Iran, from Straits of Hormuz, gets restricted for a certain period of time. But as I know today, they have 10 to 12 months of reserves, the Chinese. So which implies that, actually speaking, they cannot carry out a Venezuela type attack as the arming that is taking place because of the strategic cooperation
Okay.
between both. And I tend to agree with the analyst, my co-panelist, when he says that there is energy swap, I agree with that, but I also say that this energy swap right now is being catered to by arming Iran to create more damage onto the Americans and draw out the war in an attrition warfare.
Okay, Professor Singh, my question is, everyone knows what happened to Ukraine. They settled out their nuclear weapons, and today they stand alone. Which country is going to give away its nuclear ambitions? So, what's the meeting point when it comes to the enriched uranium? What's a giveaway no, and where do you think they can meet? Because Trump was the one who threw out the nuclear treaty, which was signed under Obama administration.
I think that clearly is the sticking point among a couple of sticking points in nuclear negotiations in Geneva. That United States wants to really ensure that Iran does not do any nuclear enrichment at all, promising that for their power plants, the uranium could be supplied externally. Whereas Iran is insisting that in terms of civilian nuclear program, uranium enrichment is part of it, and therefore that full fuel cycle should be something that Iran should be allowed in terms of their sovereign right to continue with. But United States today is also asking for controlling missile program of Iran, which is another sticking point. So I think they may not be clearly expressing it that they want to pursue nuclear weapons, but I wouldn't rule out that kind of thinking also, available, and then pushing and strengthening in Iran, that in case of push comes to shove and they feel threatened by United States repeatedly like this, that they should keep that option as a possibility, that they could continuously enhance their enrichment. Already, according to IAEA reports, Iran had reached up to 60% of uranium enrichment. What happened to those stockpiles is again a puzzle
Yes.
after June attacks. So, I think the kind of pressure that is being built around Iran is only going to make them perhaps feel more vulnerable and perhaps feel more inclined
Okay.
to keep that option open. Though it's not going to be easy because of the global opinion is not very favorable to Iran going in that direction. They understand that limitation. But the sentiment internally, I think, will be growing stronger on this, whether they should
Absolutely.
weaponize.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you both of you for joining me, because one thing is very clear, that this tension is not going to go away. No one deploys 2 aircraft carriers unless and until something serious has been planned in that region. That sort of a deployment never takes place. Thank you both of you.